Imagine waking up one day to find out that trillions of dollars are changing hands, and part of that could be your opportunity. We are in the middle of the largest wealth transfer in modern history. But here's the catch. Most people aren't ready for it. What you do now could shape your financial future for generations. Interested in the topic? Then share, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any valuable tips. The generational wealth transfer. We're witnessing a historic shift. Over the next 20 to 30 years, millennials are expected to inherit around $124 trillion in assets, including real estate, businesses, stocks, pensions, artwork, and more. This is by far the largest intergenerational transfer of wealth the modern world has ever seen. The scale is so massive that it could reshape markets, disrupt family dynamics, and transform the global economy. But this monumental opportunity comes with equally massive risks. Inheriting wealth doesn't mean you'll keep it. A classic example is the Vanderbilt family, whose fortune, built in the 19th century, vanished within just a few generations. By 1973, during a family reunion with over 120 descendants, not a single one was a millionaire. This shows us something critical. Poor planning, lack of preparation, and no financial education can turn any inheritance into dust. The challenge isn't just receiving wealth. It's preserving and growing it. Source of wealth, entrepreneurship versus inheritance. Even with this massive wealth transfer underway, most billionaires are still self-made. In 2023, in the U.S. alone, 84 billionaires built their fortunes from scratch, while only 53 inherited theirs. People like Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, and Sarah Blakely started with nothing. Their success stories are built on entrepreneurship, risk-taking, and innovation. On the other hand, families like the Waltons, heirs to the Walmart empire, prove it's also possible to preserve, grow, and pass on wealth across generations. But that takes strategic planning, strong financial control, and long-term vision. These two paths reflect different choices. Building wealth takes energy and creativity. Inheriting wealth demands wisdom, humility, and knowledge. And with $124 trillion changing hands, the line between the two is blurrier than ever. Historical trends and inheritance. Throughout history, inheritance has been a key part of how economies function. In 1900, in countries like France, the UK, and Germany, inherited wealth made up about 20% of national GDP. World wars, asset destruction, land reforms, and higher taxes changed that dramatically. For much of the 20th century, wealth came more from work than from inheritance. But that's shifting again. Recent studies show that in developed countries, inheritance already accounts for around 10% of GDP, and that number is expected to keep rising. In slow-growth economies like Italy and Japan, where real economic expansion is limited, generational wealth is becoming the main engine of financial power. In other words, when economies stop creating value, money just changes hands. What's driving this surge in inherited wealth? Several factors are behind this growing concentration and transfer of wealth. One of the biggest is an aging population, especially the baby boomers, now between 60 and 80 years old. This generation built significant wealth during decades of economic growth, high savings interest rates, and booming stock and real estate markets. Real estate, in particular, played a huge role. Properties bought for peanuts in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in cities like London, Los Angeles, or Sydney are now worth millions. On top of that, baby boomers own a large share of productive assets: stocks, businesses, pension funds, and properties. This creates a ticking time bomb of capital that's about to be redistributed. Unequal distribution of inheritance. Even though this wealth transfer is massive, it's far from equal. It's estimated that the wealthiest 1% will receive about 50% of the total inherited value over the coming decades. Meanwhile, around 60% of Americans will inherit less than $5,000 in their lifetime, a sum that doesn't significantly improve anyone's financial situation. Worse yet, inheritance-related lawsuits more than doubled between 2016 and 2023. Families are fighting over land, bank accounts, and even sentimental items, tearing relationships apart and draining wealth through legal fees. Wealth concentration and a lack of open family dialogue are a dangerous recipe for conflict, injustice, and irreversible financial loss. Economic and social impacts. This historic wealth transfer will have deep social consequences. For starters, it could widen economic inequality, since inherited wealth gives people a head start, access to capital, credit, and assets. It also brings inheritance taxes back into public debate. Many governments are trying to find ways to tax these transfers, but face heavy resistance and lobbying from powerful elites. Experts also warn that inherited wealth might reduce motivation for innovation and productivity. When your financial future is guaranteed, the drive to create, take risks, or push beyond comfort zones can fade. The challenge in the years ahead is to find a balance between fair economic policy and encouraging responsible wealth preservation. A shift in young heirs' behavior. Millennials, now starting to inherit wealth, think very differently than previous generations. Many don't want to follow their parents' lifestyles. They lean toward alternative investments like crypto, ESG assets, startups, and social impact. They value freedom, experiences, and quality of life over tradition and stability. Studies show many millennials dream of retiring before 50 and living off passive income. But for most, that dream is far from reality. The real issue? Many of them lack financial literacy. They don't know how to manage a basic budget, let alone handle a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Generational and cultural tensions. The generational divide isn't just financial, it's cultural. Baby boomers were raised in times of scarcity, war, high inflation, and uncertainty. They value security, hard work, and saving. Millennials grew up in an era of speed, convenience, and consumerism. They expect more support from parents and often believe it's the family's responsibility to ensure financial stability. This disconnect creates tension. Many parents hesitate to gift wealth while still alive, even as their children face soaring costs for housing, education, and health care. The best solution? Open conversations. Honest discussions about money, inheritance, and expectations can help avoid conflict, align goals, and protect family bonds. The role of real estate. Real estate plays a central role in this story. In cities like Toronto, Zurich, Paris, and New York, property prices have tripled or quadrupled since the 1990s. Much of the wealth being passed down is tied up in urban real estate. These assets not only have high value, but they also generate income and enable access to credit. At the same time, strict zoning and red tape have kept housing supply limited, pushing prices even higher. The result? Young people who inherit property gain a massive financial edge over those who don't. Ownership has become the generational divide. The risk of losing inherited wealth. Here's possibly the most alarming fact in this whole video. 70% of families lose their wealth by the second generation, and 90% lose it by the third. What does that tell us? That inheritance without preparation is a disaster waiting to happen. Many families never talk about money, never involve heirs in decision-making, and fail to educate them financially. Add to that family conflict, reckless spending, bad investments, and inflated egos, and everything built over decades can vanish in no time. The biggest threat isn't taxes or economic crises. It's internal. It's a lack of discipline, wisdom, and long-term vision. The greatest wealth transfer in history is happening right now, and it brings incredible opportunities, along with serious risks. Understanding what's driving this shift is the first step toward not just watching it happen, but taking part in it. So get ready, educate yourself, and talk to your family. The wealth changing hands today could change your future too, but only if you're prepared to receive it. And remember, your financial freedom journey starts now. Click the link in the video description to unlock the ebook packed with investing secrets, mindset shifts, and wealth building strategies.